but they are both true stories. Growing up, George traveled by, and it used to be one of the few things we look forward to as a family, because it did not always happen, right? Thanks to my father's job, we moved across different parts of the country. But whenever it was December, it was a big debate in a house. Are we going to the village this year? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I had no voting power as to how that debate would turn out. It usually was my mom and dad that would, okay, we didn't go last year or went in the last 5 years. And after deliberations, they say, okay, this time we would go. Now, I have to admit, we didn't always go. But when we did, it was special. We traveled from whatever city we were living in by road. My father driving, my mother in the front seat. And we were a small family, so we can fit into any car. My sisters and I at the back of the car. And there were times where it wasn't my sisters and I. There were times where our last born had not been born yet. But I had vivid memories of those journeys. As you drove across different parts of the country, having a newfound love and appreciation for your country. That's not how I felt at the time, though. I was a child. Primary school / secondary. But one thing I remember vividly was Tollgates. Oh, I remember. Because there was something special about Tollgates. It was a point where cars would slow down, go through the gate, and then pay something. You know, they always would pay something. And I don't know if I asked my dad why, but it was a norm. It was something we're used to, right? You had to pay a toll. I also remember toll gates because it was a hub of activity. You could be driving for hours on lonely roads. I mean, it's the highway. And then I tell my dad, I want to ease myself. And he says, wait, let's get to the nearest toll gate. He always said that. Why? Because there were people around. So we knew that, a toll gate was an area where it was busy enough for you to be around people and safe enough for you to urinate, I guess. So toll gates made up an important part of the memory of road travel for me. And as we managed to go to the village, as I won't say frequently, but once every how many years, there was a consistency. It was still there. Later on, it seemed there were no toll gates anymore. I can't remember when exactly, but I just realized that they disappeared. And well, we started traveling less, and at some point we didn't travel again. But that important piece of nostalgia, that part of my childhood that made road travel all the more interesting, disappeared at some point. So that is the life story that I have to share. Now let's go to the news. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, says more federal roads will be tolled to ensure effective infrastructure maintenance. The minister said this during an inspection of the ongoing construction on the Abuja-Kaduna dual carriageway. Mr. Umahi said the federal government was leveraging public-private partnership to improve road infrastructure across Nigeria for socio-economic benefits. Another report says the federal government launched toll operations on the Abuja-Akwanga-Lafia-Makurdi Road corridor to repay the $460.8 million loan. That's interesting. Obtained from the China Exim Bank for road rehabilitation and upgrade. It also announced that motorists using the highway would begin paying tolls ranging from 500 naira for saloon cars to 1,600 naira for multi-axle vehicles. However, police and military vehicles are exempt from toll fees to facilitate their operations. The toll gates on the route are divided into 4 sections: Kefi, Akwanga, Lafia, and Makurdi. The 227-kilometer road was rehabilitated and upgraded through a preferential credit loan from China Exim Bank. There are other reports that toll gates will return to federal highways across the country. Now, is this exciting news for me? It depends. While it takes me back to those days where we used to have toll gates, The question you want to ask is the purpose of it at this time. But more importantly, what happened to toll gates? Why did they stop? If it's coming back, why did it stop? We'll get there shortly. But this is not the first time that it has made the news that toll gates will return. The last time we heard this was in 2019. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was the president at the time. And it made headlines that toll gates are coming back. We're going back to a simpler time. The idea is always for the federal government to raise money for something. Now, it's important to note that one of the many ways that the government raises revenue is through tax. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But when they reintroduce a tax channel, a means of taking money from the citizens, you want to ask questions. Why is this important now? How much are you taking? What is it for? And are we going to see the dividends? Are we going to show working? If you say, oh, I'm going to be taking extra 200 naira from you, it is so that we can do this. I will have the right to ask you questions when I start paying. So in 2019, they also said that toll gates are coming back. We'll have toll gates on our highways. And then Nigerians had mixed reactions. Some were saying, well, if it's going to be used for what it's intended, then by all means. But if it will not, please, we are not interested. So let's go back to why toll gates left our roads. It was scrapped by the Obasanjo administration. And the reason the former president gave is that it had outlived its usefulness to Nigerians. That's what the president said. He said the daily returns of 63 million naira was not significant. He also said, and this is an important part, considering the corruption surrounding the funds and the inconvenience that motorists pass through, there was no need for toll gates. Roads and many other factors connected to bringing back toll gates with security. Now people talk kidnapping. There are toll gates, meaning that there will be activities at different points across the road. Drivers will be gathered because when you get there, you slow down, you wind down your glass, you pay money. Sometimes they give you change. So if there are toll gates at, intervals, it would not be very easy for kidnappers to pull off what they can because roads will be busier. These are all different angles and perspectives to approach this conversation. But what say you? Are you in support of the return of toll gates across federal highways in Nigeria? 0817-923-0002. 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp is 080-903-06416. Remember, we're live on Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria InfoPH. You can watch, listen, and drop comments on those platforms. Dear Chinedu, good afternoon. The toll gates were demolished during OBJ's tenure. Regards. Yes, I know that. I literally just said that. Okay. Well, thanks for that reminder. We'll take a quick break and return to talk about these toll gates. Please stay with us. Like it still is hard facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. Sam Oracle Chinedu here, and we're having conversations about the reintroduction of toll gates on our federal highways. It was scrapped many years ago when former President Olusegun Obasanjo was still the president, and his reason was that it had outlived its usefulness. It was an inconvenience to Nigerians. The daily 63 million that it generated was insignificant, and considering corruption surrounding the funds, it just did not make any sense. Now, the big question is, do these reasons no longer exist? Has corruption been tackled? Is it no longer an inconvenience to Nigerians? And the reason given this time for the proposed reintroduction is that funds are needed. And while the government has a right to want to generate funds through taxation and all of that, another angle would be, so what about the other funds that were used before now to pay some of this debt, to fix the roads? What happens to them? And I can't speak for government, but I'm certain that the response will be, well, the government always needs money. We're dealing with a lot. So my question is, are you in support of the reintroduction of toll gates if it's going to happen this time? Because in 2019, everyone waited. It seemed like it did not. Divine calls from Woji. Hello, Divine. Good evening.
Good evening, Sam.
Good evening.
Am I in support of the toll gate system returning?
Yeah.
Absolutely no.
Why?
Is the answer. Why? First, the reason it was removed was because of corruption.
One of the reasons.
There was something also you did not mention while you were talking. One of the corruption was that not just that the money was not reaching the final point of destination, people were printing their own personal receipts. And that was too bad in the system. For me, I think the best way, instead of charging 500, 1,000, or this, just go through the banks. Let's know the money will get to the federal account. Everybody who has an account in Nigeria, remove 50 or 100 naira every month. You will achieve your aim far better than bringing up a program that the corruption there was even minor. Now it is weightier and heavier in the system compared to what it was before.
Divine?
Yes.
If reintroducing toll gates would guarantee better securities on the road, better quality of road, and you actually see the dividend, would you be in support of it?
And let me tell you why it may not happen that way.
Tell me.
If you introduce it, you have not looked at the other side also. You will have more policemen on the road collect more money. More road safety will collect more money. With the money will not get to the federal account.
Oh, come on.
And from here to Benin, I'm saying from here to Benin, you have more than 80, what is 80? Over 100 checkpoints. Is just not insecurity? It's still there. So all those blocking road with drums and woods, what is their purpose? It's still there.
Okay.
So why not go to the account? Let me sure the money gets to the federal account. It's as simple as that. But if you want to introduce that to say because security, my brother, that's not the reason.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Divine. Tom Biabo calls from Tombia. Hello.
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes. The thing is that let's ask. I want to know the set of people that will be paying the toll gate.
Set of people that what?
Set of people that will be paying the toll gate. All right. If you look down, you see that it's mainly the ordinary people, the ordinary man. And what Obasanjo said then that made it to grab this toll gate thing is even more now than before. So the young Nigerians are paying everything to sustain the end in our society. First of all, they produce 50 naira from every 10,000 naira you withdraw. This government do that. The ordinary man is paying that. They increase tariff on telecommunications. They increase electricity bill. The ordinary man is paying so much, and now what they produce is taken. What are all these things for? Go to airport. Before you enter Port Harcourt International Airport here, you pay. But the facilities are not even working. The facilities are not even working. So why all this pay? The reason why I ask, who are the set of people that will pay is this. Will the minister of any of this ministry pay Tollgate? Even the commissioner will not pay. So who are the people that will pay? As ordinary Nigerians that have been paying with this hardship, have been paying with everything they have. Please, this government should be careful in the way they are treating Nigerians.
All right.
So that the Nigerian population will not rise against them.
Thank you very much.
Is enough for this.
Okay. Temple.
Tollgate. Obasanjo dismantled the former one will have their own tollgate. People are still paying tollgate fee up to now without even accounted to anybody also. But when you get to Choba Bridge here to Rumuji, you find out there's more than 8 tollgate. Tollgate is not where motor will stop and pay money. Hello?
Yes.
So there's more than 6 tollgate from Choba here to Rumuji. It's still not accounted to anybody.
No.
That's
not an organized gate. That's the court. That's not an organized gate.
How will you organize this one now? Will you say people should pay money to which bank? Later we should go ATM. People will go and open our account as we pay that money into. The money will not go to where it's supposed to go to. That's the problem we have in Nigeria. People are willing to pay. If actually the money is going to Africa quarter and we see it, we enjoy it, everybody will be happy.
Okay.
They should take, because even now, the transport system, that's the public transport, are still paying to pay. They buy their ticket every day. We have local government ticket, state local government ticket, community ticket. It's not also Tollgate. It's not their phone of paying cards.
Yeah.
So they should think for a way that maybe the other private sector, could also buy tickets and to open this Tollgate that will reach some people and frustrate some people.
All right.
That is my take.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Well, yeah, those are tolls if you really think about it. Braid calls from Obunabali. Good evening, Braid.
Yeah, good evening. Greetings to you, Sam.
Evening.
Yeah, Sam, this toll, for me, there is no need to bring Nigeria back to toll. Are we going back to Egypt? Look at the Onto ship on Nigeria. Dad, you know the bill they gave to me this month? 140,000.
What's that for?
What am I using? That is PHEDC.
Oh, power bill.
Yes. And look at the tariff. They are saying that has not been increased, but I tell you that it has been increased. Look at data. If you load data, look how it runs now. Look how people are suffering. What way to go? Look, our president should leave anything concerning this toll. We are already paying for the toll indirectly. Look how driver will stop in a bus stop. Somebody will collect money from him. Driver will just park somewhere. Before you know, somebody has come to drag the toll with him. What kind of society are we into? We vote them. Is it for them to kill the Nigerians, ensure that Nigeria does not exist again? Look at Benin, close to us here. Look at their electronic election. Everything was going very smoothly. Here in Nigeria, how many billion are we putting in our elections? And at the end of the day, there are different litigation here and there. Please, if you have any opportunity to send a mail to Mr. President, tell him that let him downplay this, anything concerning toll. The untold hardship for Nigerians is too much. Look at the minimum wage. How much is it that people will be paying bringing us money like this? Where would they go and bring it? Would they go and steal? It's not palatable at all. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
Comrade, I am great.
Thank you very much, Braid. Lawson from Yenugua. Hello, Lawson.
Good evening. I think this evening is past 4 now.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Yes, it is.
I want you to argue with me on that, please.
It is evening. It's evening.
But Nigeria we argue too much, honestly. And let us I think we are mixing it up. Obasanjo at the time, yes, those other reasons he gave were there, but don't forget, he also wanted to increase pump price, and somehow there was this argument, and then we have to go for pump price, and then for Tollgates, you didn't include that part. That at the time there was that argument. At the end of the day, we had to forgo the toll gate, and then pump price increased. We were not paying more, and Obasanjo had more revenue. He preferred the pump price revenue because the revenue coming from the toll gate for him at the time was not much. So for me, that was even the major reason. Now, that aside, when you look at this our road, honestly, if you have a car, Sam, you have a car. You have a car and you have to force your car a bad road and knowing how much spare parts cost. Then you will understand. You will understand that the roads are too bad in this country, especially when you have to drive a long way through a federal highway. Yeah, these roads are bad and vehicles are being damaged. These criminals, this is why most times you see them, they are on this bad spot where they wait late and then attack motorists and take them in the bush. But this money, this toll gate we are talking about, is to maintain this road. Federal government can no longer maintain this road. They do not have the resources. Clearly, it is there. Look at it. They do not have the resources to maintain this road. And they are saying that, look, let us toll this road so that we can bring the private sector, and then the private people will come and maintain this road for us, and then they get their payment through this toll fees.
Okay. So
I support it that the private sector will be there.
Okay.
And anything you have a private sector, it goes smoothly. Look at Indorama. It's owned by government. Look at the kind of profit they are reckoning in.
Okay.
So let us understand that it is not going to be government, but majorly the private sector.
All right.
If you spend your money there, you will definitely want to make sure you get your money back. And that would be that the road is also fine.
Thank you very much. Now let's remember, we're speaking about toll gates, even though it seems like ancient history. The Lekki toll gate was working effectively until, of course, the NSAS protest, where the protesters vandalized it, and since then it hasn't come back. But before that, for reference, by the way, the NSAS protest was just 5 years ago in 2020. If you drive past that place, right, I don't want to speak to just the aesthetics, but it didn't seem like a bad idea to be told on that road. Because it seemed, okay, I'll just leave it there. This would be controversial. It seemed like the fund was doing what it was supposed to. But again, without particular data and all of that, you really can't make those statements. So it's not exactly ancient history. There are places where it works. It has worked. I'm trying to be neutral, objective if you may, but I'm struggling. The government says it needs to raise funds. The money they have is not enough. We need money to first, they said they need to pay bills, pay debt rather, and then, of course, fix the roads and apply it where it needs to. If this money can be channeled, implemented as stated, would you be in support of the return of toll gates? Now, former president said it's because of corruption and it was an inconvenience to drivers. It had outlived its purpose. It's no longer necessary. Do these reasons no longer exist? Before I take the next call and go to WhatsApp, these are the vehicles that are exempt from paying toll fees. Security vehicles, diplomatic vehicles, emergency vehicles like ambulances, any vehicle that has a siren and has it for good reason. And 2 or 3 wheeled transport modes. Oh, well, this time I think they will all pay. So for security, diplomatic, and emergency, they'll be free to go. But for regular drivers like you and I who are just driving our private vehicles, we will have to pay if this comes back. I'll take one call and then take messages on different platforms. Christian calls from NTA Road. Good evening, Christian.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Very, very interesting topic, honestly. I've been trying this line because I wanted to really contribute.
All right, you're here now. Welcome.
When I finished secondary school, that was 1996, 1997. 1998, I got a job in that Tollgate.
Okay.
I actually worked as a Tollgate officer.
Oh, nice.
So I have the experience.
Okay.
So I know. Actually, reintroducing Tollgate in Nigeria is not a good idea at all because the corruption now is higher than that time. They were actually collecting this money and they were not using it to do exactly what they wanted to, what it was meant for.
Okay.
So when Obasanjo came into the Sonny Abacha was there, and Sonny Abacha actually privatized it. Somebody is talking about privatization, gave it to private sectors. They actually literally shared it among the ministers at that time. So they just, the geopolitical zones, the ministers that were coming from those zones were actually the owners of these companies that ran Tollgate that time. A minister in River State, I wouldn't call the person's name, was actually the owner of the company running while we were employed. You get. So when Obasanjo came into the government, another politics of military rule to democratic rule now started. When Obasanjo came as a democratic president.
Yeah.
So they now decided, because of the politics, they decided to give it to governors.
Okay.
And from there, Obasanjo saw that it was a problem and they scrapped it out. Actually, all the money they were collecting that time, the roads were still bad. So reintroducing these Tollgates now, they're still going to collect the money and they're not going to put it into use.
Okay.
The taxation in the country, the pay in the country right now, then you're not going to subject these people that are actually paying to now be paying 500 and 1,000 plus or for one Tollgate to another after they have finished paying police everywhere. We also collect their own. I think it's not a good idea.
Okay.
Because they are not going to put it into use. Because I experienced it, and all the monies we collected that time, after the collection, the company will remit the little they will remit the federal government, and the rest is history.
Okay, so I'm glad you said what you just did, because I was going to ask a question if they were remitting to the government at all.
Yes, when they were remitting to government, we had a target.
Okay.
So you are going to work according to the target. So at the end of the month, whatever we collect, we are paid on commission.
Oh.
So if you cannot meet up your target, they will now let you go. So bringing the thing is that this private sector that will come and take over the Tollgate, which private sectors are they? Because it will still be these politicians that will open companies, use their companies to go and be running as private sector, meanwhile their interest is still there. So that is where the challenge is going to be.
Okay,
collecting the money from the people, or how the money is going to be collected. Somebody was talking about people printing receipts.
Yeah.
When a company is employed as a private sector to take care of the Tollgate, the government is going to give a target. That this amount of money is going to be collected, and then there will be an understanding between the private sector and us, the government.
Okay.
But the truth is that, for instance, since I'm an expert in that, I worked there for 4 years as a young boy before I entered university.
Okay.
So I know the in and out of business. If I bid for the job, having known that I can do it, will they give it to me if I don't have connection? The answer is no. So we are just still going to present themselves as private sectors, and then you see things not move the way they are supposed to move.
Okay, Christian, I need you to stay with me for a bit because I have some questions. Now, you said you had targets. Were these targets daily, weekly, or monthly?
Yeah, the targets were actually monthly.
Monthly.
So what happened is the government was actually collecting directly. It was under civil servants.
Okay.
All civil servants were actually doing it, and we're not doing it well. So Abacha decided to give it out for private sectors, which they are also their his own voice and his worker, his subordinates. Actually, we are the people running it. So, but what happened that before, as a company, before you are now employed to run it, you will discuss with the government. Let's say that for Port Harcourt Tollgates, as an example, which I worked, we are actually remitting like the civil servants were remitting like 3 million or 4 million, as the case may be, in a month, that period. So now that the private sector took over, they had an agreement with the federal government that they're going to be remitting like 7 or 8 million. So now the private sector will now bring consultants, independent consultants, to come and test run the activity. That is the operations of the toll gate for that period of time, like for like 1 month, to see exactly what's going to come out. So you now, as the owner of the company, having employed this consultant to do an independent audit of a month operation of the toll gate, we now do it and see at the end of the month, leave or add, this company should be having like 10 million in a month. They say like cost of operation might be like 2 million. And maybe them to have their own left to 2 million. So 6 million should be remitted to the government.
Okay.
You understand? So that agreement stands. So then that agreement that stands, that understanding, that experience will now be handed over to the company, which is we now start to run it. So in each booth, we call it booths. So we have booth 1, booth 2, booth 3, booth 4. The highest booth is the one that the trucks move.
Yeah.
Then the next is the one that the buses go. Then the next is the one that the cars move.
Okay.
So the fee, the car, the bus, the truck we pay is different from
the bus
we pay.
Okay.
And different from.
Very quickly, Christian, you said that if you don't meet your target, you'd be fired, right? I don't know if I heard that correctly.
Okay. If you don't meet your target,
so
you're going to be fired.
how do you meet your target? You don't control the number of cars that drive past the booth. So how do you, for example, that was working there, get to meet your personal target when you have no control of the traffic?
Yeah, beautiful. Now, like I told you, the experiment went through for a month or 2 months. So the traffic, the determination of the traffic has been actually experimented. Okay. So there's this probability that is that even if you don't meet up, you will almost meet up.
Okay.
But like while we are there, some days you will not meet up. Like maybe you do shift from 7 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Another person will have to take over from that 12 o'clock because it's continuum. You cannot stop it.
Yeah.
So another person is going to start from that 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening. Then before the person that is going to run all night, that will do night, we take from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So that's how we are doing it. So some days the target might be given to you that your target, maybe you're in car lane, you're meant to maybe have like 10,000 naira per day. For that duty, that 7 in the morning, 12 o'clock. And perhaps you have collected everything that you could collect. Now, there's what we call checking and collecting. The checking is that you're going to be two. One person is going to be in the booth, while another person will be outside. So when a car goes, when one car moves, you're going to check. You call it checking.
Oh, Christian, so I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We are officially out of time. I was hoping to ask you more. Thank you for calling. Actually, that brought some insight to the whole thing. Oh well, most people are against it. A few are for it. We take this break. This is the end of the conversation. Please stay with us.
The show.